The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
The best ideas are free with Ben Young from Bwaggy.com.
Yes, Ben Young in the Kiwi studio a little bit earlier on this morning from Bwaggy.com, BWAGY that is, .com. Good day to you, Ben. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. Where you been this weekend?
I popped down to Christchurch for the weekend. Came back. Jetstar have a really late flight that gets in at midnight. So I got home at 1 this morning. Early start.
Yeah. And what took you to Christchurch?
It was actually my niece's birthday.
Okay.
So we went down on Saturday and did some stuff in Christchurch. And I'm really thankful for airline competition in New Zealand. It used to be, because I'm originally from Queenstown, if I wanted to visit home, it was a $400 or $500 trip.
Yeah.
But now you can pop down to Christchurch or Queenstown a couple of weeks out and spend only a couple of $100s.
Cheap as, eh?
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, which means you can spend money on other things.
Yeah, which is exactly what we did.
Yeah. Where did you stay?
We stayed at the popular Hotel So. I've been hearing about it for at least a year. People have told me to fly to Christchurch just to stay there and invent things so that I can stay there. But so I had a genuine reason to go.
Yeah.
So I thought, I've got to check this place out.
No, I've been there, but never stayed. I've visited people there.
Yeah,
but never stayed.
And
there.
what did you think?
I'm very impressed. It's very modern.
Yeah,
very modern looking. The lighting in there is something amazing as well.
So when you drive along, there's a nice big blue Hotel So sign, and then there's a sign that says $69 a night. Yeah. And when you think hotel $69 a night, ooh,
it sounds like one of those 1 hour.
It sounds
stops.
like. In the location, you think it's a backpacker with a hotel put in front of it. But when you walk in, it's almost like in the movies where you walk into a hotel and they've got this nice sweeping entrance. That's what it's like going into Hotel So.
Yeah. They've got a quite nice bar cafe at the front as well.
That's the first thing I noticed. I walked in. Normally, hotel, bar and restaurant, those are the sucker bars and restaurants. You don't eat there. If you do, you're going to be charged through the nose, and more often than not, they're empty. Yeah. But it was packed.
Right. That's good. It's a good sign.
Yeah, we arrived at 10:30 at night. And so for the restaurant to be packed at 10:30 must be something good there. Yeah. So I was quite surprised by that. And then we check into the rooms. Hotel So is very compact. What they've done is they've looked at hotels and what travellers need versus what they're sold, and they deliver what travellers actually need. So a good example of this would be swimming pools. Whenever I travel and I'm looking at a hotel, I do tend to get a place with a swimming pool.
Yep.
I've never ever used a swimming pool.
Just like the idea of it.
Yeah, well, everyone thinks if I have some downtime, I could go for a swim. The reality is, when you're travelling, the downtime is probably bed. Or if you come back for a few hours, you want to lie down. Yeah. Not another swim. So they've made these nice little compact rooms. And the idea is to have a platform for you to operate from. So they've got a bed, TV, they've got a small little bathroom in the corner. Yeah. And it looks like a small spaceship. And it's in the corner. And imagine half a spaceship pushed into the corner, and you slide the door open. Yeah. And there's a toilet and a shower in there. Right. And you slide it back. So
they've used the space very well. They're very economical on it.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel small. When you look at the photos, you're like, that's going to be really small, but it doesn't feel small because they utilise the space so well.
It sounds like something that you'd come across in Tokyo. Yeah. Rather than Christchurch.
Yeah, well, that's what I first thought. I thought surely Christchurch has got enough space such that they could have bigger rooms. But when you get there, the reality is you don't need all that extra space. What do you use it for? To throw your clothes on. Yeah. And they do free Wi-Fi, no complications. I was in my room, I was connected within half a second. There wasn't ring the lobby, get a username, can we charge it to your account? Or sometimes even if it's free, you have to fill out a registration form. And
that's actually, if the pool is the clincher for you, it's actually free Wi-Fi. That's the clincher for me.
Definitely. When I'm on business travelling, if a place has free Wi-Fi, suddenly everything else doesn't matter as much. Just because when I get there, if I'm able to work and prepare for either my business meeting or my speaking gig, that's worth more than...
And it's something that seems to be, for New Zealand, the hotels and motels are slow to catch on. I mean, there's a lot more free Wi-Fi out there now, but in the States, you go anywhere, it's all over the place. You could basically not pay for internet while you're travelling in the States.
So I suspect broadband costs have... kind of held that back. And it is quite painful visiting some parts of New Zealand where the only Wi-Fi available is $35 for 24 hours.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Where possible, if that's the case, I'll use my Vodafone 3G.
Right, okay, yeah.
But the few other nice little things that they have some nice big Macs in reception, so anyone can use free computers. They have $10 lunches and dinners. So if you are on a budget, you can get a basic meal.
Yeah.
And they look really good.
Cool.
I tried to go try it, but inevitably I bought something better. Something higher up on the menu. And they also have a gym and a sauna.
So it sounds like it's all the bells and whistles here that really, really matter.
It is the bells and whistles, but they pull it together into a hotel experience. Like when you want your room cleaned, you know how you've got the little thing that hangs over the door handle and you put on the outside? At Hotel So that says "so untidy."
Huh.
So you put that on the outside, and at the bar is called So What? No, So What Bar.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's just all these little quirks. They have a real attitude around the brand.
Cool. Okay, so that's something that's inspired you?
Yeah, definitely. Last week I was talking about this year.
Yeah.
Kiwis really need to focus on selling the experience. Hotel So really do that.
Cool.
And when I talked to reception, I found out of the time I stayed there, they were completely sold out, and that they were sold out for much of February.
Yeah.
Now, Hotel So is, by room number, the second largest hotel on the South Island. So they've got just under 300 rooms. That's incredible to be sold out.
Yeah, it is. What else inspired you over the past week?
I actually sat down and met Chris Gillibo and the guys from Indie Travel Podcast. So Chris Gillibo, I know him because he wrote a quote for my book, The Best Ideas Are Free. And Chris Gillibo runs the Art of Nonconformity blog. And so a couple of years ago, he wanted to share with the world what he was doing, kind of make his life the way that he wanted.
Yep.
So his big, hairy, audacious goal is to visit every country in the world.
Yeah.
So he details his journeys as he does that. But he also details ways to help you be able to do that. So a good example is he wrote some guides on creating a business for under $100,
right,
which is very similar to the 12-hour startup that I wrote about in my book.
Yeah.
Also, he wrote some guides on how to get hundreds of thousands of air miles, which is good for Americans, not so good for Kiwis because the same stuff doesn't apply.
Yeah.
And that's where they open a savings account, get some free miles, close it, but then you can use those miles for a free flight.
Huh, okay.
So that kind of stuff. So it was good to meet him. He was traveling back down to the Pacific. He was down this way last year, and then he was just on his way back to the US.
And he's from the US?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so his podcast, I mean, how popular is it?
No, that's his blog. The guys from Indie Travel Podcast.
Yeah.
So if you go to indietravelpodcast.com, it's the 5th most popular podcast in the world. I think it gets about 20,000 downloads a month.
Right.
And that's actually a Kiwi couple.
Ah, I see.
And based out of Auckland. So that was cool to meet these guys that they travel about and then they talk about the journey, providing itineraries, tips, what they've enjoyed, what they haven't enjoyed.
Yeah.
And personally for me, they're a huge wealth of knowledge for just getting all those little travel tips that you don't know about. And one I got quickly when I met them was that an airline in the UK were charging £5 per route credit card fee. So if you did one transaction for a couple on a return flight, you had to pay £5 per route per person. So it's an extra £20.
Right.
And on a cheap flight, that's more than the flight.
Yeah, yeah. So they gave you a tip to avoid that.
Yeah. So I would definitely check them out. It's quite inspiring to see a Kiwi couple doing so well, in the global space. 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the top travel podcasts are all big companies, and these guys are just little independents.
So they completely forged it on their own?
Yeah, definitely.
That is really inspiring.
Yeah, they won Lonely Planet Podcast of the Year award last year.
Fantastic.
So doing quite well.
And so that's indiepodcast.com?
Indie Travel Podcast.
Indie Travel Podcast.
Yeah. So they actually do an online magazine.
Yeah.
And they can send you a physical copy as well. So there's a wealth of information online.
Wow. All right, I'm going to go check that out. Well, we're checking out. Well, Ben, thanks so much. The best ideas are free indeed. And you can find out more about Ben and some of his writings as well at bwaggy.com, bwaggy.com.